My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N-O'-H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Today is a historic day for the Minneapolis Police Department. We're going to be announcing the most significant changes to the MPD's organizational structure in the modern era. But before I begin, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the great work of all of our police officers, but in particular, those members of our current command staff. Since I became the police chief here, the members of the current command staff have been responsive, have been loyal to their oaths, and have served our residents with professionalism and respect. I am thankful to all of them for their service. There are three consistent lenses through which each decision that I make for this department is driven by: reducing the number of victims of crime in this city, earning and maintaining the trust of the community we serve, and rebuilding our ranks while restoring pride in the MPD patch. When I was confirmed as Chief of Police in November of last year, it became clear to me that significant organizational structure changes were needed so that our department structure reflects our mission and enables us to have greater accountability over our efforts to reduce crime while earning trust with our community. In February of this year, I stood before the City Council and presented a vision for how the MPD needed to be structured in order to deliver the highest quality of policing services while earning the trust of our residents. One major hurdle that's been in this department's way has been a state statute limiting Minneapolis specifically to the number of command staff members that it could have appointed by the Chief of Police. Thanks to the support of our mayor, the assistance of our city IGR team led by Director Katie Tupinka and Steve Huser, thanks to Senator Latz and Representatives Moeller and Jordan in the state legislature, and our Minneapolis City Council, I stand before you today ready to fully implement an unprecedented department reorganization. Minneapolis was ground zero for a global reckoning on policing practices and racial justice. It is clear to me that Minneapolis can be the model. In fact, Minneapolis must be the model for how we move forward through healing of shared trauma, coming up with innovative solutions hand in hand with our residents and police officers, and above all, keeping all people safe. Having been chief of this department for the last 9 months, I've had the opportunity to see very clearly that there are abundant and immediate gaps. But what I have also seen is a department that is turning the tide in terms of violence through the sheer will and resiliency of the officers who made the choice to stay in the MPD and to continue to serve our residents despite unprecedented challenges. The reorganization that I am implementing today is going to give those officers the support and the leadership structure that they need, and more importantly, that they deserve. The new structure will ensure that on a day-to-day basis, no officer in this department is unclear of their responsibilities and of my expectations of them in accordance with our mission. Today, I want every officer in this department to know we are moving forward. The last 3 years have been defined by unprecedented darkness and trauma. We must draw closer with our community members who share and carry the weight of that same shared trauma. It is only through collective healing that we can chart a brighter and stronger future together. This reorganization will also provide the residents of this city with the ability to know that we do not have to sacrifice officer accountability or innovative and meaningful community engagement in order to keep them safe. In fact, the presence of this accountability and community engagement is central to our ability to keep our residents safe. These are not missions in competition with one another. No police force can reduce crime and maintain those crime reductions if we are not doing so in a way that enables us to earn people's trust. Effective today, I am restructuring the MPD into 2 divisions: Operations and Community Trust. Operations will be headed by Assistant Chief Katie Blackwell, and she will oversee the daily crime fighting operations in the MPD. Assistant Chief Blackwell is a native of Minneapolis and a 23-year veteran of the MPD, having started her career as a community service officer. Over the course of her career, she has patrolled all 5 precincts and served as an investigator in the Assault Unit, Sex Crimes Unit, Violent Crimes Investigation Team, and the Homicide Unit. She's overseen the Training Division and was most recently the inspector of the 5th Precinct. In her spare time, Katie is also the highest-ranking female enlisted member of the Minnesota National Guard. She is assigned to the 84th Troop Command, 34th Infantry Division, with the rank of Brigade Command Sergeant Major. She has completed over 160 combat missions and has been wounded 3 times in battle. Reporting to the Assistant Chief of Operations will be the Patrol Bureau and the Investigations Bureau. The Deputy Chief of Patrol will be Deputy Chief John Kingsbury. John is a graduate of the University of Minnesota, and he is also an attorney with a law degree from Hamline University. Deputy Chief Kingsbury has faithfully served the MPD for 24 years. He has held numerous patrol positions and has experience in crisis planning and response, having planned for almost every large-scale event the MPD has had over the last 10 years. The 5 precinct inspectors report to the Deputy Chief of Patrol, and today I am announcing 2 new appointments to the rank of inspector. The new commanding officer of the 2nd Precinct will be Inspector Nick Torberg. Inspector Torberg has been with the MPD for 30 years. Another proud native of Northeast Minneapolis, he spent 13 years working the 4th Precinct on various shifts. He later served the Special Operations Division and in the SWAT unit, as well as the robbery unit as an investigator. Most recently, he was a patrol lieutenant on the afternoon tour in the 1st Precinct. The new commanding officer of the 5th Precinct will be Inspector Christy Nelson, a U of M graduate with a degree in kinesiology and in football coaching. Inspector Nelson joined the MPD in 1997 and has spent most of her career on patrol. As an officer and a sergeant, she held positions in the 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th Precincts, as well as spending time in juvenile investigations, SWAT, and the narcotics unit. After her promotion to lieutenant, she held patrol leadership positions in the 2nd and 3rd Precincts, most recently serving as a patrol lieutenant in the 2nd Precinct. The Deputy Chief of Investigations will be Deputy Chief Jason Case. Deputy Chief Case has been with the MPD for 25 years, having served our nation as a military police officer both in the U.S. Army and the Army National Guard. Jason has been assigned to various patrol and investigations positions and has led the Leadership and Organizational Division, the Internal Affairs Division, the Violent Crimes Division, and before this appointment, the Strategic Operations Division. The 2nd new Assistant Chief will be the Assistant Chief of Community Trust and Engagement. That will be Assistant Chief Christopher Gators. Chris joined the MPD 29 years ago. A native of Ohio, Deputy Chief Gators has served in various roles in the Organized Crime Unit, the MPD's Gang Unit, the Anti-Terrorism Unit, the Intelligence Sharing and Analysis Center, before spending 15 years as a homicide investigator. Most recently, he served as Chief of Staff for the MPD. Deputy Chief Gators has led Community Engagement and Outreach Bureau and was responsible for efforts in recruiting, hiring, CSO programs, and engagement with residents of the city. Assistant Chief Gators will oversee our long-term work to engage community members, recruit new officers, and assist vulnerable and unhoused residents of our city. Reporting up to Assistant Chief Gators will be the new Internal Affairs Bureau, the new Constitutional Policing Bureau, and the Professional Standards Bureau. The Deputy Chief overseeing the new Internal Affairs Bureau will be Deputy Chief DeChristopher Granger. Deputy Chief Granger is a 28-year veteran of the MPD, spending a large portion of his career as a homicide investigator and in SWAT. His most recent position has been Commander of the Internal Affairs Unit, but he's also served as a patrol officer in the 5th Precinct, as a lieutenant in the 4th Precinct, and as part of the Violent Crimes Investigation Division. He also served as the Super Bowl Intel and Investigations Section Chief. The Deputy Chief overseeing the new Constitutional Policing Bureau will be Deputy Chief Travis Glampy. This is not Travis's first time as a Deputy Chief in the MPD, having previously served as a Deputy Chief over the Professional Standards Bureau. He has also patrolled in almost every precinct and he's provided oversight in the License Investigations Unit, Sex Crimes Unit, and Internal Affairs. As Deputy Chief of Constitutional Policing, his leadership will provide oversight for the bureau that houses the Implementation Unit, coordinates with the City Attorney's Office and other city departments, as well as serving as the liaison with community and other stakeholders to implement and achieve compliance with the MDHR settlement agreement and any potential federal consent decree. The Deputy Chief overseeing the Professional Standards Bureau will be Deputy Chief Mark Montgomery. Mark was born into police work, as his mother was St. Paul's first female police officer. In his 28 years with the MPD, he has patrolled the 1st Precinct and 4th Precinct, served in Internal Affairs, served as a traffic enforcement patrol sergeant, and as an MPD motorcycle instructor. As the Deputy Chief of Professional Standards, Chief Montgomery will oversee the Training Division, Administrative Services, and the Technology and Support Services divisions. The team standing before you today is the right team for the job. Together, we will ensure that every day we center all of our department operations and every decision made through our core goals: reducing the number of crime victims in this city, earning and maintaining trust with our residents, and rebuilding the ranks of this police force while restoring pride in the MPD patch. The department is in the midst of a defining and historic moment, and I am confident with the appointments that I am announcing today, we will have the right people in the right positions to move the MPD out of the darkness and trauma of the last 3 years into a brighter future together. I'll take any questions that you have.
In terms of the setup, are you aware of any other departments in the country that do this? Where did the idea come
Yes.
from?
Several departments, well, for example, the structure between 2 assistant chiefs. The fire department here has been set up that way for a while. It's common with larger organizations, but in terms of what I think is most important, I think the department should be structured not to reflect some preconceived bureaucratic structure. It should be structured based on what is our mission and what are our goals. And it's very common in Baltimore, the LAPD, in Newark, in other cities that have been under a federal consent decree. It is oftentimes required that there be an executive level person appointed to oversee reform. So this type of structure is very common with similarly situated cities, particularly those that are under court mandated reforms.
For people in Minneapolis who are going to be seeing this headline, MPD restructures, it's an easy thing to kind of gloss over. Why does it matter to people in the city the way you guys are structured?
It matters to people in the city because this department is going to be structured, and we are going to do everything possible to achieve our mission. That's to keep all of our residents safe while earning trust with our residents, and also rebuilding this force and restoring pride in this department. We've already seen year to date a historic reduction in the amount of violence in this city, and that's being done at a time while we're still suffering through the lowest number of sworn staffing in decades. I think as of today, there's been, I believe, 135 fewer people shot in Minneapolis this year. That is a very real number. If you look at the amount of shootings and gun violence in this city during the summer months, from May until today, we are below the last 3 years, and we are actually on par with 2019. That is a huge achievement, especially when most other major cities in the U.S. can't say that, let alone this city, which has been ground zero for so many of these challenges. So we will be structured to have greater accountability and to continue to keep the foot on the pedal to reducing crime in a meaningful way, but also start working on earning trust and engaging in ways that we need to do so.
Is Operation Endeavor still going on, and how does this impact that?
There are a number of operations that continue to go on. That has been sort of weaved into a lot of the processes that we have, but this is something that's continuously evolving. We will be doing everything possible to continue to address the problems that we see with crime and violence, but also at the same time, we'll be doing everything possible not just to go through a list of reforms that the state gives us or a list of reforms that the Fed give us, Our measure of success will not be some statistic that we have officially. Our measure of success will be people in this city will feel safer, and people in this city, more people in this city will say that they have trust in the MPD, that they've had more positive interactions with cops in this city, and that they believe our police officers, they know our police officers have their backs. That's the real measure of success.
Chief, you talked about restoring trust here. Aside from this reorganization, are there any other tangible things on the table here right now to help improve that trust between the community and the department?
So what has not adequately happened here, it's been obvious to me that everyone in this city wants progress. Everyone here has been through so much. Our cops, our residents, everyone wants to move forward, but what we have not done is we have not begun to heal. And I think internally, today is the day where we are sending a very clear signal internally that we are going to move forward, that we're going to try and begin that healing process together with these changes, but also for community. We need to be present in community, and we need to be hearing people out, and residents need to see that we are serious about including them in how we move forward together. So over the next few weeks, you will be seeing a number of community engagement sessions that will be occurring around issues with the MDHR settlement agreement, and I think that's something that residents will see. They'll be able to come and have their voices heard, and they will see that we are serious about ensuring that they are a part of these conversations, and we are serious about ensuring that our residents have their fingerprints on our policies, on our training, and our practices. And I think that's something that's necessary if we are going to all try and move forward together.
Chief, this is a lot of oversight changes all at once. Do you anticipate any sort of disruption of services, say internal affairs, that sort of thing?
No, there will be no disruption of services. This increases the amount of people available on the executive level to provide accountability, and that's absolutely necessary. I have found the structure here for supervisors is very heavy on the bottom, but is not sort of stratified in a logical way as you progress up. It does not reflect a logical staircase, and that's a long-term goal going forward. And some of the functions that will be included in some of these new bureaus will be structured in a way to ensure that we are correcting those problems.
Are there any ways you think adding the structure could improve or make any changes to levels just like racial equity in the city and just how people of color
That's definitely something that's on my mind as I make all of these decisions. That's something that's important for all of us going forward. But I think that's all of these issues are not things that we got into overnight. That's more of a long-term goal, but it's something that we have to be aware of very intentionally with everything that we're doing.
When you say that you found that the structure was heavy on the bottom,
Yep.
you mean like
No, it's not sort of stratified in the way that other departments are, and that's something structural here. So, for example, there is not an assignment of detectives, if you will, in Minneapolis. Minneapolis has sergeants that conduct investigations. In most other police departments elsewhere in the country, major cities, sergeants are specifically supervisors. So that's something that adds to the imbalance between number of supervisors at the bottom and then very, very few as you go up above that rank.
And are there no other changes just to the structure otherwise, like precincts and the geographical structure?
No, 5 precincts will remain the same, and today we're announcing 2 new inspectors for 2 of those precincts. The other 3 inspectors remain in their positions. There will be additional changes to appointed positions going forward. There's a number of commander positions in the department that's also appointed, but that's something that the new team and I will be figuring out as we move forward.
Just building on my colleague's question here, is there anything that you can do or are planning to do to address what you just brought up about sergeants?
Yeah, so that's something that would have to be resolved through collective bargaining if the city chooses to do that. But yeah. Yeah, there will be some positions that will be backfilled, yes. But we will be looking at the current structure with this team and identifying which positions we don't need to fill, how we can divide things up differently under this new structure to do the most efficient job possible without losing any accountability over what's most important here. And also in the future, we'll be looking to, we'll continue to look to civilianize additional positions as well. Thank you. Thank you.